So you've got a carbon baseline, you've got a carbon reduction target, you've even got a plan, but your emissions reductions just aren't keeping pace. Want to know why? Hiya, my name's Kev Cooling from Hut22, and today I'm going to talk about the importance of governance in carbon management. Before we get into that, let's just check you're in the right place. If you're somebody who's inherited a carbon reduction plan that had great results early on, but things have started to slow down, you are in the right place. If you're wondering how to create more traction with your carbon management plan right across your business, you're in the right place. If you're wondering why you're the only manager or director who seems to care about this stuff, then you're in the right place. In short, if you want your carbon reduction plan to have impact right across your business and all three emission scopes, both direct, indirect, and also across your value chain, you're in the right place. So as I said at the top, I'm going to assume you've got the basics sorted. You've got a baseline, you've got a reduction target, and you've got a plan. And your plan may well be focused on a lot of technical measures like upgrading your lighting or replacing your boilers or maybe moving to an all-electric vehicle fleet. But now you want to go further and really embed carbon management right across your business. The solution you're looking for may well be found in our new hackbook, Carbon Management Governance, where I break this idea of operational governance down into three key areas. But before I get into that, I just want to make sure we all understand what I mean when I say operational governance. Here I'm talking about identifying, developing and implementing the right means of controlling, i.e. limiting, activities that increase emissions and promoting activities that decrease them. And I guess the context for this is that it's high time that carbon management became a staple agenda item at board meetings, and that your execs and your managers understand that they have to be fully engaged in reducing your emissions, and everybody across your business needs to understand that they've got a role to play too. So I'll talk about that more in the hackbook, but right now let's get into those three areas of governance for carbon management. Without being explicit about responsibility, it's unlikely that you're going to make significant or sustainable progress in reducing your emissions. You're largely going to be relying on the goodwill of personally motivated individuals. You wouldn't do that with your finances, and you shouldn't do it with emissions either. In the hackbook, I talk about ultimate responsibility for the person who sits right at the top of your carbon management structure, and the importance of making sure they've got the agency to deliver on that responsibility in terms of, do they have the capacity, i.e. have they got the time? Do they have the capability? Do they understand what they need to do? And of course, have they got the influence? Are they senior enough to make things happen? I also talk about collective responsibility. We know that responsibility can and should be shared. And there's some really strong parallels here between implementing a carbon reduction plan and the way that you implement your health and safety regime. Both should have this collective sense of responsibility right across the business. So next up, accountability. Now, responsibility is important, of course. Things happen as a result of individuals or a group recognizing and then addressing their responsibilities. But, and this is the important bit, for those given specific responsibility for a thing, and this is true of anything, by the way, there must be an adequate mechanism for them to be held to account. Okay, so this might sound a bit strong. It might sound a bit totalitarian, but it is essential that any specifically allocated responsibility sits alongside appropriate accountability. We all know that every individual is accountable for their own actions. And while that's universally true, in a corporate sense, accountability really only comes into play at management levels. And in the hackbook, I talk about how to implement accountability and what being held to account really means. I also talk about a less formal dispersed accountability and why you might need to tailor the way you implement your plans for accountability in different parts of the business. The third aspect of governance that I talk about in the hackbook is spending. And you might well say, well, that doesn't really fit with the other two and it's not even really governance, is it? You're probably right. But here's why it's super important. Up to 80% of your carbon footprint, which we should probably be calling a GHG inventory, but this is no time for pedantry. So 80% of your carbon footprint is likely to sit in what we call your scope 3 value chain. And a very significant part of that is going to be the stuff that you buy and sell, all those goods and services that you spend money on. So you can see that having good governance mechanisms around the spending of budgets is going to be really important in your efforts to reduce your emissions. So I talk a lot more about all of these topics in the hackbook. And you know what, it would be a bit silly of me to call it a hackbook if it didn't contain any hacks. So there are 5 for each of the 3 topics in there to get you started on upping your governance game for carbon management. So look, that's a super quick summary of what I talk about in the hackbook. If you think that might be interesting, you think it might be of use to you, go ahead and download it by clicking the link that's somewhere around this video. Thanks so much for watching the video. I'm Kev Cooling from Hut 22, and hopefully I'll see you soon.